Right. Okay. Before we start the meeting, do we have any residents that wish to make a comment?
I thought I'd come up and speak for just a few minutes
Mike's on.
to thank.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I didn't know whether it was on or not, and I thought perhaps my voice would carry anyway. But I wanted to thank the board for the consideration given to my thoughts about running for a board position. You know, it's a difficult decision, and I wanted to share with you that I have known Dave O'Donnell for a year, and he and his wife, and he would make an excellent board member. And I just want to encourage you to think about bringing new people on the board. So, with that, I'm going to wish you luck in your deliberations and the best of luck moving forward. I will continue with Hayden Lane. That is important to everybody that lives here. And we do have to get the city to accept it. So after the election, November 5th, um, we will move forward with asking the council to take the street. Anyway, thank you for this few minutes at the mic, and I will continue to see you on campus.
Thank you. I just want to thank Marilyn. Is that okay?
Turn your mic on.
The meeting hasn't started yet, so please do.
Okay. I just want to thank you, Marilyn. You've done such a great job. And you can see your commitment to the community. So thank you very much.
Okay, let's stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. So you want to call this meeting in order with a roll call? Todd Reinhardt,
Present.
Beth Ann Holzig,
Present.
Andrew Emmert,
Present.
Dave Rack, here. John Elkins,
Here.
Bill Simonelli, present. And with us is Chuck Teal, our general manager. With 5 board members present, we have a quorum, and we may proceed with the agenda.
Six.
6, excuse me. I can't count. That's why I'm not treasurer.
You gotta count yourself, Bill. Yeah.
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 Yeah, you're welcome. Do I have a motion to approve the regular board meeting minutes of September 30th?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor of approving the minutes from September 30th, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
No opposed, passed unanimously. The next item is to, per the motion of last month, is to vote on the new board member. We have 2 members that have self-nominated, or 2 owners that have self-nominated themselves under Florida 720 law. And they are, I'm going to ask them to stand, David O'Donnell and Kathleen Faustini. With that, I'm going to ask Chuck to pass out the ballots for the vote.
You only get one, right?
One vote, yeah. Okay, and this is now like a conclave where we got to say a prayer before we hand it back.
Thank you.
Does any board member wish to say anything before we submit the ballots? Okay, let's submit the ballots.
It's so important.
3 votes for Dave O'Donnell, 3 votes for Kathleen Faustini.
Okay, we have a tie. I'm going to make a motion that we have a second vote. Pause for a minute and then we'll vote again.
I'd like to speak before the vote.
Yes, John, I just like to make a comment first.
I
I
do.
hope that all comments made are positive and constructive.
They're facts. What I have to say is facts, Bill. Okay.
Before I do that, can we hand out the ballots, please?
We have recently enjoyed open interaction and communication with our residents for the past couple of years. Residents are participating more in our committees and social functions and coffee and conversation. Systems are running better with residents bringing issues and problems to our management team for resolution. Our choice for the board member to serve out Lynn Smith's remaining term should be one that supports and enhances the openness that currently exists. I object to the appointment of Kathleen Faustini for the vacant director slot. Let me tell you why. One of her first moves as president was to curtail resident comments before and after board meetings. The substitute was a quarterly one, town hall meeting for 1 hour, not televised. When Jack and Chris Clint disagreed with the way our pool maintenance vendor was handling our pool chemicals, Kathleen and then Jim assumed the Clints were interfering and demanded they stop. When the Clints insisted that the chemical balance would be harmful to Sandoval children, are you listening? Yes, okay.
Yes.
Kathleen ordered them away from the pool and requested Sandoval legal counsel issue a formal cease and desist order directing the Clints threatening legal action.
John, I'm going to move the question.
No, I'm not ready for I haven't finished. You can't.
According to Robert's rules,
No, you cannot. No, you cannot. Weeks later, Sandoval fired the pool committees as we determined they were wrong and the Clints were right. Kathleen did offer an apology. Kathleen did not tolerate disagreement with her decisions. At the meeting when the board was to vote on the settlement of the Taylor Morrison lawsuit, 2 of our board members strongly objected to accepting the sales center as payment and satisfaction of the Sandoval complaint. The week following that board meeting, Kathleen was so disturbed by their lack of agreement that she called a special private executive board meeting, no resident present, to chastise them and relieve the treasurer of his position and remove them from any committee liaisons. The treasurer got wind of the meeting's intent and resigned from the board the day of the execution. The other director was humiliated in the meeting and removed from his committee liaisons. Kathleen ordered the staff to deny entry cards for residents and board members to the office and clubhouse after 7 and weekends. This made it difficult for the residents coordinating evening activities, as well as requiring calling in a management company employee on the weekend for any need other to enter Pelican or the office. At one of the coffee and conversation Friday sessions, the lifestyle director was embarrassed and upset by comments made by residents. As a result, Kathleen forbade the GM and all board members from attending coffee and conversation. After Hurricane Ian, many Sandoval roofs needed replacing. Kathleen did not want to allow metal as a replacement roofing material. Board members proposing the addition of metal insisted that it should be allowed as it is the strongest material and has the best chance of survival in a hurricane situation. Kathleen did not accept the decision to allow metal as a roofing material and demanded that Sandoval hire a consultant to assist in the evaluation before giving ARC the go-ahead.
She hired a consultant from Minnesota for the analysis. After further delays waiting for the consultant's report, the report stated that metal is the most survivable roof material in a hurricane. Even after the determination that metal was acceptable, Kathleen required more definition, resulting in more delays in approving ARC applications for metal roofs. These delays, due to disagreement and more definition, resulted in many Sandoval residents paying higher prices for roofs as costs were escalating. I implore you to bring in new blood to our board. Please select David O'Donnell.
Are you done?
Yes.
I'm personally disappointed that you chose, instead of talking about the positive aspects of one candidate, trying to trash another candidate. And with that, I want to call the vote.
Can I just say something, Bill? John, I understand that you have your thoughts and feelings about it.
Those are facts.
Okay, alrighty. I don't feel like it's fair to Dave or to Kathleen for you to read this. Dave stands on his own merits. Kathleen stands on her merits. They both have submitted to us their bios. I personally have spoken to both of them, and I just feel that it's not fair to either one of them for you to make this statement. So
That's because you support Kathleen.
that's, you don't know who I support. And just like anybody else, John, we're all entitled to our vote. And you don't need to know who I voted to.
I know.
You don't know who I voted for.
I know.
Okay.
I'm
So
entitled to what I said.
but I think that that is something that shouldn't be displayed. I agree with Bill. And I will say it again. I don't think it's fair to Dave, and I don't feel like it's fair to Kathleen. That's how I feel about it.
Okay. Please.
Okay.
Three votes Kathleen, three votes David.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion that we table the vote to the November meeting. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
I
All in
don't think,
favor?
I don't think we can do this. If you look at our bylaws, we're in violation of bylaws.
Well, we have a tie vote, and we're gonna spend all night voting.
Why don't we discuss it?
I'm putting a motion up to table this to November. Do we have discussion? Do I have a second on it?
I'll second.
Okay. Discussion on the motion. Does any board member want to make a discussion? Then I'm gonna call the question. All in favor of tabling to the November meeting and reopening nominations, please say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
Hold on a second. You just added reopen nominations. That wasn't part of your motion.
I'm sorry. Okay, let me restate the motion. The motion is to postpone the table the vote to November and reopen the nominations to the community if someone else would like to submit their name to be considered. Do I have a second to that?
I'll second.
Any discussion on that point? All in favor of the motion, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Aye. I count 1, 2, 3, 5. The motion fails. Wait, 4 to 2, excuse me, motion passed. Okay, this vote for a new board member will be tabled to November. I will send out a notice to the community that nominations are open if a owner of good standing would like to have their name considered as part of the November meeting. The next item is the President's report. Good evening and welcome to everyone joining us tonight for this regular monthly board meeting. whether you're attending in person, watching live, or catching the replay on YouTube. We are 2 weeks past Hurricane Milton. Sandoval experienced a modest amount of damage that the general manager will go over in his report. I would like to thank the on-site staff for coming in on the Sunday before the storm to start securing the community assets and having Sandoval well prepared for the storm when it impacted our area midweek. As authorized on September 30th, the board subgroup has been working to finalize an agreement with President Hospitality and Management to take over as our management company. Our original goal was to have this agreement completed for tonight's meeting. All parties involved lost a week in this process as we had to attend to the personal and professional priorities from Hurricane Milton. That is why we have a board of directors meeting scheduled for next Monday, October 28th, specifically to discuss and vote on the proposed agreement. Before I discuss old and new business, on behalf of the association, I would like to express our condolences to the family and friends of Jim Roy. Jim was a longtime resident of Sandoval, and he was an active volunteer for many years, especially for the children-related events at Christmas and Easter. Jim was one of those larger-than-life characters that will be missed. We have 3 items under old business and several under new business to address. We will be getting our monthly update on our compliance efforts with the recent Florida HOA legislation. I'm pleased to report that we're making good progress, and Beth Ann's had a lot of cooperation from all involved parties to get to this point. We will consider the approval of 2 new committee members and a resolution to begin contract negotiations with Blue String Fiber as the company providing internet service to the community at the end of the current Quantum Fiber contract. This is a significant topic, and we will hear from our internet consultant who will go into this topic in more detail when we reach it on the agenda. Under new business, we have an ARC appeal to consider. With that, I'll now turn it over to the treasurer for his report.
Thank you. I have a condensed treasurer report today because I had some questions. Well, let me back up. I did not receive the financials for September until this morning. And when I reviewed it, I had some questions, so I did not include it in tonight's report. Year-to-date income under budget. The year-to-date house sales continues ahead of forecast. We forecast 55 and we've sold 73 homes so far. Expenses are under budget. The IntraFi cash services is up and running. There were a few glitches, but it's been straightened out. And I'm hoping to transfer more money in there and move additional vendors to be paid out of that account. Total reserve fund balance as of today is $3,827,345. The BPP balance is $212,366,000, and Fifth Third is $3,614,979, and the market yield is 3.4. Reserve spend through 3 quarters is a total of $247,270, and it's broken down by quarter. First quarter is $46,577. Second quarter is $117,936, and third quarter is $82,757. The due to from account is now at $4,574. So we finally got all that straightened out. Hurricane Helene and Milton expenses with Juniper are approximately $51,305. I think it's going to go up because there's a few more things that haven't been taken care of, but I don't think it's going to go up very much more. We still meet with Associate VP for ongoing review, and we will continue to do that moving forward. The interest earned on the Fifth Third account is lower than expected, and I've actually asked Todd to look at the statements because when I was looking at them the other day, like, September, we had $20,000 in interest, and August it was only 3 or 4,000. So it's bouncing up and down, and I just don't know why. Okay, delinquencies. We continue to see the decline in delinquencies. September 23 was $69,054 versus 50,626 this year. And August was 55,723, and September is 50,626. And this is the Hurricane Ian assessment. There are 1,284 residents that have paid in full. There's 92 residents behind and 49 residents with no payment. The reason the behind payments of 92 has gone up is because when they first set this up for the people that were paying over 5 quarters, they never added in the additional $67 fee. So they added that in, and that's why the number went up. The owners with no payments will be on violation portion of the November ballot board meeting to vote on a 6-month suspension to common amenities if they don't pay. And we have sent out 2 notices. We're going to have to send out a third one.
Right.
And I know this is hard to see, but this is the detail of the reserve spend. Like I said, through September, $247,270 has been spent. Discretionary reserve is 6,000 over budget, but total spend plan is 24,000 under budget. And that is my report. Does anybody on the board have questions? Yes.
I have a question. In regards to the folks that have not paid anything towards the assessment, is there a time element? The reason I'm asking is the reason why we're doing it in November is because there's a time element that has to transpire before we go to actual violation.
My understanding is we have to give them 3 notices, and I'm going to talk to Yamali because it's a manual process to see if she can get something out soon so that they can get the 3rd violation or 3rd notice.
Okay. I guess my follow-up comment would be I would hope that this would be a priority from our management company today, so that we can get those out. I have like all of you, I'm sure, I have a real problem with the 49 that have paid nothing and have basically not responded to anything.
I will say that while it wasn't a lot, after we sent the first notice out, the number came down, and after we sent the second notice out, the number came down, but it didn't come down enough.
My other quick question, obviously the covenants committee is probably going to be busy in November or December, I should say, December. Are we able to attach a monetary fine to this in addition to the suspension of common area
Well,
elements?
if I remember it correctly, don't hold me to this. I do believe they get a late fee, and I think there's also interest on not paying.
Can I add? So in the original motion where we approved the assessment, we approved it that we would follow the standard late assessment process. So whatever is standard for late assessments, we have to follow for this too. Okay.
So there will be
There
monetary
will be monetary penalties, but we have to follow the same procedures that we do for late regular assessments.
I mean, and again, my point for the 1,284 people that have paid,
Yeah.
we need to be addressing the 92 and the 49 in order to make sure that they pay their fair share.
I'm guessing, but I believe from the 92, I think half of them are people that just didn't pay the $67 fee that they were told they had to do to pay over five payments. So I think those will come in relatively quickly.
At what point, besides the suspension of amenities, at what point do we explore legal action?
we can go into a collections process, we can put a lien on that for the amount, we choose to do so. That would require another board vote to do.
Okay, all right. And in that third notice that goes out, are they then told, informed that this is the next step that we'll take? Okay,
Yes,
all right.
we owe them that at the end of
Okay.
what the ramification will be if they choose not to pay up.
Okay.
Have any of them expressed any comments or anything on
From what I understand, the people that didn't pay and then paid, they would go to Yamley and go, I don't know what this is about. So
Do we know if any of them are in foreclosure?
I did not know that.
We
Is there any in foreclosure?
we can't do?
that, yeah, we probably do a quick check of account numbers against the most significant delinquencies for regular assessments and see if there's any correlation there.
Okay.
Solve the problem.
No, it's like I said, the problem.
I'm just curious as to,
It's very bad.
Yeah,
Or
we
to
gotta
ex-
get it to the finish line and then either pay or take legal action.
If the problem's in foreclosure, if it has a mortgage on it, I think we're limited to $1,000.
okay,
There's some real limitations in the statutes. We're careful.
okay. I didn't know.
Yeah.
Question, I didn't know.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
So the only other comment I'm gonna make, Dave, is that, given that in theory, we're on a short, fuse for moving to a different management company, where all operating, where the operating account and all AP will be done out of an ICS account. Just in terms of, for 30 days, I don't know if there's much benefit in adding any more vendors to the ICS account payments.
I guess what I could do is I could talk to a president and see if they use the same bank, then I can just do the transfer and it'll just be, it'll be over there instead of in the PPP bank.
Okay, all right, just in terms of trying to, assuming that things go as we hope, we're gonna have our hands full between budget and transition. Just didn't want to add one more thing.
You don't have to tell me.
Fair enough. Any other questions or comments for Dave? Okay. The next item on the agenda is violations. We have two separate violations we're going to consider. One is account number 287-3206. This is an account that has chosen to install a roof in violation of ARC standards. The paperwork related to that case is included in the package. I'm making a motion that we have our legal counsel, as we've done with other situations, we have a settlement agreement prepared, asking them to agree to the settlement agreement with $1,000 fine and loss of access to common amenities for 6 months, and give them a response date of November 15th. If they don't, then we'll have the opportunity to reconsider them at the November board meeting on November 21st. Do I have a second to the motion for account 3206?
Second.
Any discussion?
Question, should this not go to covenants first before we go to settlement agreement?
This is the advice that we got from our counsel from our last two meetings was that we can go directly to a settlement agreement. If they choose not to, sign the settlement agreement, then the board has the ability to put them through the violations process, which would ultimately end up at covenants.
Okay,
My understanding is settlement is legal, Todd, where the portion of suspension of covenants and fines would then turn back over to the covenants committee for review.
I'm just making a comment. I'm trying to think about this logically, but if I think, from my opinion, the board should vote on moving forward with the violation, send it to covenants, have covenants ratify it, and then take action based on whether the person comes in and appeals or settles or whatever and then the consequences are executed.
So I appreciate your opinion, Tad, but the advice we got from council at our last meeting in July about this was that the association, if they choose to do so, can directly go to a settlement agreement. And it's up to the owner to either accept the terms of the agreement or then go through the rest of the process that ultimately ends with the covenant committee ratifying or not ratifying the penalty.
I understand, but based on the experience we've had over the last 60 to 90 days, I think that process or that recommendation from the attorney was flawed. But whatever the board decides to move forward with.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions or comments on this account? All right, I'm going to call the question on account 3206. All in favor of the motion to prepare a settlement agreement for this account that includes the standard settlement agreement wording with $1,000 fine and loss of access to common amenities for 6 months with a response date by November 15th, please say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye. We have a 6-0 vote on this. Thank you. The next account is account 2877215. Is the same motion for a settlement agreement that includes $1,000 fine and loss of access to common amenities for 6 months with a response date due by November 15th. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Once again, that material is included in the board package. Do we have any discussion on this account?
I just have a quick follow-up question for Chuck. Has proper notification been given to these particular folk in regards to letters, timelines, etc. by Chris?
This is no ARC application. It was brought to our attention by the ARC committee, and it was turned directly over to the settlement agreement. So no, it has not, doesn't follow the three, as you mentioned before.
And that's a validation of my previous comment, but whatever the board decides overall, that I'll go with it.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the board? Okay. I'm going to call the question. All those in favor of preparing a settlement agreement for account 287-7215 that includes $1,000 fine and loss of access to common amenities for 6 months with a response due on the settlement agreement by November 15th, please raise your hand and say aye. Aye. I have a 6-0 vote on that. Thank you. Okay, the next item is our general manager's report.
Okay, thank you. As you can tell, as you're driving through the community, we have finally started our mulch installation. They are completing the commons on this Saturday, and they will begin the bulk homes on Monday, starting at Greendale Woodburn. As the process goes, we have, there's probably about 40 installers here on property. We've got 2 parking lots full of mulch bags. Once they pass through and finish, one of our maintenance, either Brian or John, are spotters. They will go through the community and they will identify where they feel that it's not sufficient, and they'll document that, and there will be another crew that comes around and adjusts any kind of issues that are found. So I want everybody to know that on the first pass, they don't get it right, we will follow up and they will correct it. And they may not correct it that same day, but we will document. John has been doing that so far in the comments. Tree trimming has been scheduled. The contract has gone through, or the quote has been approved. We're waiting the vendor to get us on the schedule. As you can imagine, they are working through some Milton work that they weren't counting on. So we're hoping as soon as mulch is done, we're hoping to get them in here at the earliest that we can get them on here. That will include all of the bulk homes, palm trees, and that will include all of the palm trees in the common areas and some olive trees on the Cape Royal fence line that are suffocating some of the royal palms. And there are also some branches on the in the common that are on the Cape Royal fence line that will also be addressed. The office, the lobby doors, quite a long process to finally get them here, and it's a long process to get them installed. We are expecting the completion of the installation either tomorrow or Monday. Promptly after that, we'll have a building inspector come in and approve the work. But we're close to getting it. The door is closed right now. It's not mechanically working until Envira actually gets it set up. But the doors are installed. They look great. There's no gaps in them. They're not bent. Well worth the wait, I gather. We're getting ready for our Halloween events. You can see over here, we've got a whole truckload of Halloween haunted house that will be assembled tomorrow. Thank the board for moving this board meeting up so we can get that taken care of. I want to thank all the volunteers that have come out this year to kind of make that a successful event. And we're looking forward to a lot of kids and a lot of scared kids here on Saturday. Violation letters for the month is about 45, maybe a little bit more. Predominantly hurricane shutters seem to be the issue. Obviously, Milton is passed, and as per the rules, the shutters have to come down. It seems that some people have put the shutters up and are either not here or don't have someone to remove their shutters. So letters are going out. Generally, the majority of those letters are for hurricane shutters. We've endured 4 gate strikes this month. All 4 have been identified, and we're in the process of getting that taken care of. Along the lines of hurricane and lightning strikes, yes, we've had our share of both. Repairs are ongoing. This week, stumps were removed from some of the trees that had been removed during Milton. Envira cameras are in the process of being reattached. We lost some during Milton, and we also lost some during the lightning strike. And street signs are slowly starting to kind of get put back together again or leaned up into the right position. There's still a lot of work to do, but things are kind of moving along, progressing nicely. Does anyone have any questions?
I do, but it's more towards Juniper. Do you want me to wait till landscaping?
It's up to you.
So-
Let's deal with it now.
You're the El Presidente. I'll follow what you say.
Let's
Go for it.
go for it.
So my question, there's been a significant decline in Juniper service, especially in the bulk neighborhood areas. I'm specifically relating to Greendale because I live there. The turf conditions are terrible. On a positive side, when you do, and I would encourage property owners to do this, when you place a work order, Dave responds to it very quickly, so thumbs up to that. However, there's a fungus problem in the turf in Greendale, and instead of being proactive, they've been reactive to where property owners now have little or no grass left. So, um, here's my fear is the honeymoon phase is over and they're starting to slide into that dreaded DTE mentality. So I think they need a little kick in the rear. That's just my opinion.
Okay, as far as the fungus, there's really not much they could do about that. We have the same issue in the common areas, and the reason that we have it so bad is because of the amount of rain we got this rainy season. When it just, and this is the way it was explained to me, is that because we had so much rain, it just sits on top of the grass and it allows the fungus to grow and it kills the grass. They have been trying to treat it, but it's a 50-50 proposition. It may help, it may not. Um, they said you got to give it time to see if the grass will come back, and if it doesn't, then it has to be replaced.
Okay. But I think to Todd's point, it might be worthwhile to come to the either the November or December meeting with the landscape committee, just doing sort of like a report card, year-end report card on Juniper's performance.
Okay. I mean, we meet with them twice a month to go over any issues, and they do respond to that. And I agree with you that um, the I wouldn't use the word honeymoon is over, but they're not doing as well as when they first started. And I, I think part of that is the staff they're bringing on. And Chuck and I talked about this about getting the higher ups involved and say, quit giving us the junior varsity, send the varsity in so the place starts looking better.
And I truly thank you for saying that. Like I said, I'd like to see them be more proactive than reactive. And I'll make a comment that communication is a wonderful tool. They have their Juniper Sync or whatever it's called. If there is a fungus problem, they should be out there telling folks and communicating it, which they have not. And anyway, it's more of let's not let this one get away. They started out like gangbusters, but it has slid over the last, I would say, 30 to 60 days. And I understand the rain.
Yeah, they do post things on that Juniper Sync where people can go out and read about issues and how they suggest you handle it. Um, we could probably send another communication out to the bulk residents saying, reminding them, A, use the system if you have issues, and B, if you're looking for information, go out there because they have a wealth of information on various things that have to do with landscaping.
They did, in my last general manager's report last week, they did provide us with a URL link to the situation with fungus. It wasn't written by them, but there was a notation that this was presented by Juniper to explain some of the issues. It's a little wordy and over detailed for the average Joe, but it was in my report. I think what they need is something that is easily digestible in common terms. I think that is probably what I would ask for is they explain it in English instead of scientific matters. So
Yeah, and I'll make this, and I'll add here. We had a promise from them that within 6 to 9 months that we were going to see a significant improvement. Granted, there may be, but I think we have slid a little. I understand the weather issue, but we live in South Florida. They're professionals. They should know how to handle it.
That report card, isn't that a part of the initial contract that we signed with them, that we were going to have those?
What's in the contract is that they had 6 months. I'm trying to do this from memory, but they had 6 months to get their feet on the ground and get things up to a certain standard. And then we could start measuring the number of work orders. And based on the number of work orders, and I don't have all those numbers memorized, but if the number of work orders increased significantly, that we could receive credits or money because they weren't performing up to standards.
Have the calls, have the work orders increased?
What I've seen, they have not.
I wonder if that's because people are not,
See,
they are unhappy, but they're not filling out those work orders.
I think so. But I mean, they make it as easy as possible because they even have a number you can call. If you don't want to fill out a work order, you call the number, you tell them what your issue is, and they fill the work order out for you. And unlike DTE, Juniper responds to these work orders. I mean, I submitted a work order the other day because Milton, I had a tree that was leaning from Ian, and Milton made it lean a little more. And I've had 3 responses from it, and it's fixed.
I agree with Todd. I think we really need to be tough on on them so we don't get to the point that we did with DTE.
I mean, they are our single largest vendor in terms of accounts payable,
Yeah,
so.
but
we
that's
need to be
not
held
our-
accountable. Yeah.
Right, and that's not our issue. They agreed to be able to
Yes.
service us, they need to agree to, they
Would
need
it
to
be
do.
beneficial for them to come to one of our next two board meetings so that we can express our concerns? to
I
them
would
and
do
they-
it privately. I don't think that there's
Alright.
any value doing it publicly.
That's fine.
I'm sorry, Dave Heil is the guy who's in charge of our property, right?
Yes. Yeah.
He's fantastic. At least that's my experience. I'm sure that it might be yours. I think he's running into a problem of the junior varsity playing. So if we lose Dave,
Somebody else, I mean, we can't.
I don't want to lose Dave.
Yeah, I
guess
don't
is what
either.
I'm saying. So anyway, enough of that. I'm sorry to go off on the side there.
Important time.
Hey, the landscape report will be real quick now.
We're going towards the end anyway. Okay.
You're welcome.
I just want to add that I do a weekly drive around with David. And we go through areas where we've had some issues, especially Greendale, where the more calls that we get, more work orders we get there. We've walked through there. Even at Coffee and Conversation, I get comments. So I do have a resident over there, Tom LaFleur, who is my eyes and ears when I'm not driving around once a week. So Tom works out probably 3 times a day, so I get to see him in the gym, and he kind of gives me a full report. So, and we are having some discussions. I did have already a general discussion with the general manager of the Fort Myers office about this labor issue. Not only the caliber, but the number of folks that they're getting on property. There's should be 25 and there's 20, and that's going to slow work down. So we're trying to address that. And I did I think I did offer at the neighborhood rep meeting. I think I mentioned that maybe we should bring Juniper in, and maybe it's better suited for a private conversation, obviously. But they also offered to do a more holistic town hall kind of for everyone, not only just bulk, but people will have private contractors to let them know what they need to do lawn care, what to look for, those kind of things. So um, that's something that the board can consider if they want to do a town hall, let them come in. As Bill said, they're our largest single vendor. Uh, I like their approach to try to be more proactive, and DTE was just non-reactive. So, but I do take this as a note, and we are going to work through this.
Well, thank you. All right, thank you. Any other questions for Chuck before we move on to the next line item? Okay. Moving on in the agenda, the first item under old business is the monthly report on compliance efforts with Florida HOA legislation. Beth Ann?
Okay, so this month I chose to concentrate on meeting with Denise from Communications and with Chuck. Because what we have, we're in good shape and I think we'll be fine by January 2025. But what is the ones that are pending, a lot of it has to do with communications. So if we look at 5 and 6, which you've heard me report on before in regards to residents being given the rules, the handbook. As I've said before, Chuck gives that out at the desk. I actually thought the handbook was going to be voted on very shortly. But he also, what I saw was inside of this welcoming packet is all the documentation that puts us in compliance. So the only thing left to do in terms of that piece is to get the new rules book, the handbook, approved by the board, and then it will be inserted into that packet. Associa or the new management company will put out an e-blast so that everybody has access, letting them know that certain things have changed, and then that will fully put us in compliance. So that's 5 and 6. In regards to 8 and 10, which is about the continuing education, about the code of compliance with the interests and the conduct, Denise has created a tracker And it needs to be, well, actually, I have a question. If that tracker, she has it there temporarily, and if that tracker needs to be approved by the board, or can she just go ahead and implement it?
And my opinion is that it's just,
Halfway.
it's just tracking.
Just do it.
It's tracking the, making sure that we comply with our continuation, with certifications, with associates and whoever the new, just making sure we are posting that, making sure we all are handing it over to Andrew. Andrew then will forward it to Denise so that Denise can report on each board member where we are with that.
We sent it to Andrew?
We hand it to Andrew's the secretary.
Ah.
So then Andrew, so that piece we need to,
Management company.
okay, all righty. She's put a temporary thing already up on the, so that's the further action that we need on that. Item number 9, in regards to, Chuck and I were talking about this, in regards to the retention of records. This is something that I think we need an opinion from Rob Caves on, that he needs to look at our governing documents and weed out if there is something in there that requires us to hold on to records for more than 7 years. Are there specifics in that? So he needs to follow up with that. And also with 14.2, that is also a Rob Caves question. This is record retention. Denise is prepared to draft a record retention policy. Ultimately, that will have to be approved by the board, but we're going to need advice from Rob Caves on that. Okay. On 22, this is what's in the packet, and you'll see this throughout the compliance issues. Jessica wrote up a request for information form so that any resident who is requesting information on their account or any other documentation that's in our government documents, they come, they fill out the form, it's signed by management when they received it, make sure we're in compliance when the information should be given back, what is the subject matter. So that's in there. Again, I don't know if that's something that we need to approve tonight, or put it on next month's agenda. That request, it's fine.
It's a form.
Okay, all right. And it will be printable,
Yes.
from Liv Sandoval. I think that is it. The rest is stuff like items that have changed, the garbage pails, vegetable, the language of that needs to be looked at and see if it needs to be changed. That puts us into compliance with them. Other than that, that's all we have unless the board has further questions for me. But we're in a good place.
Okay. Somebody a question for Beth Ann? Okay, thank you. The before we go to the ad hoc or the internet motion, I thought we could dispose of the other old business item rather quickly. We have 2 applications to join various committees. Kim Whitley for social, Vlad Karasikoff for internet ad hoc committee. All the paperwork is included. Do I have a motion to accept them for membership in those committees?
I'll make the motion.
Do I-
Second it.
Any discussion? All in favor of Kim Whitley joining social and Vlad Karasikoff joining internet ad hoc committees, please raise your hand and say aye. Aye. Pass unanimously. Okay. The next item is resolution to initiate contract negotiations with Blue String Fiber. Let me start. Let me read the motion, or the resolution, I should say. Whereas the current bulk internet service agreement between the association and CenturyLink, aka Quantum Fiber, will expire April 27th, 2026, and the ad hoc internet committee, following diligent evaluation of multiple internet service providers, now recommends negotiations with Blue Stream Fiber regarding a successor bulk internet agreement. Be it resolved that the Board of Directors hereby authorizes the ad hoc internet committee assisted by Wi-Fi advisors, to initiate contract negotiations with Blue Stream Fiber of Pearl Springs, Florida, with the objective of concluding a successor bulk internet contract for board consideration no later than December 19th, 2024. Be it further resolved that the Ad hoc Internet Committee is also authorized to assess and recommend legal counsel having extensive experience representing homeowner associations and negotiating bulk internet agreements to assist with the Blue Stream negotiations. The president of the association is authorized to retain the recommended counsel and to incur legal fees not to exceed $15,000. Legal fees in excess of $15,000 must be approved by the board. Do I have a second?
A second.
Okay, before we open for discussion by the board members, I've asked our consultant to provide a short informational presentation, and from that we can then go directly into questions. So, Joe?
Thank you, Will. Thank you to the board and all the residents here for having me. Just put this up a little bit. Also really thankful to have worked with a very talented committee, still working with them. So I mentioned it in the July meeting, but the committee has a lot of talent, and you're really being represented by people that care for the community and the technology experience for residents and residents to come. With that, we'll start with just a brief agenda. Shouldn't take, I know we have a busy agenda, so I shouldn't take more than about 5-7 minutes here, and I really want to open it up for questions about Blue Stream, about the process, anything I could help answer. The agenda today, it's really to just wanted to recap briefly what we had talked about in July about some of our core objectives and goals. Talk about the last 100 days, what's happened. There's been a lot of key milestones. Objectively, this has been unprecedented negotiations where we've really moved the needle with all the different providers that have bidded. And then ultimately, talk about the committee's recommendation and then open it up for Q&A. Ready for the next slide, Bill? So this is the only thing I wanted to talk about with the core objectives and goals. You may remember this diagram I had up here last time about key things that we're focused on for this upcoming agreement. The first thing is it's got to work. And though Quantum Fiber put in a fiber to the home system many years ago, we were looking, whether it be from Quantum or with an alternative provider, for an improved fiber network, one that fiber goes directly into the unit. And we were also looking for true redundancy, so having diverse pathways going into Sandoval to make sure that we minimize any potential downtime should fiber be cut outside of the community. We also wanted to focus on the price and value. Obviously, we've been very fortunate to be part of a great deal right now with Quantum Fiber of $25 for 500 megs of speed, and we wanted to have a advantageous price with this next go around, but also wanted to really focus on these key improvements to the technology experience. The customer service improvements was something that became somewhat of a differentiation. Throughout the end of this process, we were looking for service level agreements, customer service guarantees that could be contractually available inside the agreement to make sure that they're not just promising us a bunch of stuff, but they're actually putting it in the agreement, and there's penalties should they fail to adhere to them. The upgraded equipment and technology, we wanted to improve the routers that are going into each of the homes. And we have a very good update on that and get the latest and greatest. And then we talked about these being longer term agreements because that there's a significant capital expense that the providers have of installing the fiber optics into the community. But we wanted to future proof ourselves as best as possible to make sure that we could account for the increasing need of internet and speeds going into the future. And with that, I'll go to the next slide where we could just talk about really the last 100 days. I last presented here, I think it was July 25th. And over the last 3 months, we've made a lot of progress. These are some of the key milestones that we've had. In the month of August, we had an RFP process, and 5 viable providers were sent out a request for a proposal. Obviously, the incumbent Quantum Fiber, Hotwire Communications, Blue Stream, Summit Broadband, and Comcast. And all of them submitted bids, all of them pretty competitive, offering fiber optics directly into the home. And we also did a site survey, thanks to Chuck's help with his team. We were able to get access and some of the residents, John, I know you made yourself available as well, to get access into some of the different types of um, units that we have here in Sandoval. So a single family home, a condominium, and then a villa and a townhome, so that we could have the providers visualize and put together plans of how they would run the fiber into every home. We got all the initial proposals back on time. We heard from all the different providers, and we heard from a variety of people. We heard from CEOs, COOs, senior vice presidents of the area, and everybody was on their A game. And we had about 2 hour conversations with each one of them, very, very detailed and thorough. We had a strong set of initial negotiations where providers moved on the technology side, getting to close to what we wanted, on a redundancy side, getting closer to what we wanted, and on the financial side, in producing in these rounds of negotiations somewhere between 200 to $800,000 worth of savings to Sandoval over the duration of these contracts. And over the last month, here in October, we've had even further negotiations that I really think have been unprecedented, which we'll talk about in a sec. We've performed due diligence in working with a couple different communities of over 1,000 homes with this finalist that the committee is prepared to make a recommendation on. And ultimately, here we are for the formal recommendation. And on the next slide, I just wanted to touch upon some of the negotiations that we've had taken place. So we initially received offers. Remember, we're at $25 right now. We kind of started as a group saying $33. We want to be under that. And we had proposals initially as high as $45.99. But among 4 of the 5 providers, we were able to get them into the mid to high 20s. So that was a real big success. But I think that the second bullet here even trumps that, in that we had initially proposals with escalators year over year, 4%. And quantum fiber is very unique in the fact that they don't have these annual escalations, whereas the marketplace generally does. And we successfully negotiated with multiple ISPs to get 0% escalators, which, thinking about the term of the contract, um, it also could be advantageous to be entering into a longer term agreement when you have a fixed price and you know what you could expect. But we did want to focus on the term, and though we received a lot of 10-year options, we were able to get the term down with a variety of the different proposals, and the one that we're looking at is down to 9 years. We persuaded the different ISPs to make sure that they're including Wi-Fi 7 technology, which is really brand new. Of the 5 providers, only one of them has it really commercially available right now, and the other 4 are bringing them on out here in the year 2025. So thinking ahead and knowing that this contract is going to be starting in the year 2026, we want to make sure that we're having the latest and greatest of the time. And we were able to get all the different providers to offer Wi-Fi 7 technology, which offers significantly higher speeds, better latency as well. And this was really important. This was a great takeaway from the last meeting. I know that there was a lot of discussion about redundancy. And for those that don't know about redundancy, basically what we were working with the various providers was the fact of having 2 diverse fiber pathways going into the community and having an automatic switchover. So should fiber be cut on Pine Island, for example, well, we have another fiber pathway coming along Veterans, and there would be an automatic technology switchover inside their head ends. And that was something that initially only one of the providers was offering, which was actually the one here with the formal recommendation. But other providers came to that idea. One of the CEOs guaranteed downtime as little as 20 milliseconds. We had another proposal saying 50 milliseconds, and then another proposal just saying milliseconds. So that's something I think that's crucial, because we want to make sure that we're up and running all the time. Internet's too important, and connectivity is too important to our day-to-day lives. Future-proofing the bandwidth needs. We had a discussion with all the different providers about, great, you're going to start us off at a gig of speed, which is extraordinary. But thinking ahead and knowing that this is a long-term agreement, what could we expect over time? And one of the providers said, well, we'll bump you up 100 megs every 2 years. And we challenged them in that.
and negotiated increments of 500 megs to take place after year 2 and after year 4. So we'll be at 2 gigs of speed, double the initial amount that we have by the end of year 4. So to compare that with what we have right now, that's 4 times the speed that we have. And then the last component became very important, I think, inside the final evaluation of the viable providers in having comprehensive service level agreements. So these inside the contract are going to detail what the call center experience is like. Are they US based? How quickly are you going to answer the phone? You know, when a resident were to call you, if a technician needs to come out, what does that process look like? How quickly are you going to come out? What's your uptime that you're willing to commit to? You're going to have operational reports on a quarterly basis. Should you fail to adhere to any of these things, well, what's the recourse in that? And there's to be financial penalties. So that was something that was very important to us. And all of these were part of a very, very comprehensive negotiation over the last 100 days. And with that, I'll go to the next slide, which is the committee recommendation, as Bill alluded to. And there were some extremely qualified offers all around, particularly from Comcast and Quantum Fiber. But a little bit about Bluestream, and I'm sure that they'll be here at some point should the contract work on out. But they're a 40-plus-year-old company headquartered in Coral Springs. They have historically focused exclusively inside the state of Florida. They just recently this year entered their first new state of Texas. They're not a small company. They have over 350,000 subscribers, residential subscribers here inside the state of Florida. And we did several reference checks with them, one of them being Glen Eagle in Naples, about 1,250 homes, which ironically was with CenturyLink at the time when they had dropped cable back then, and they had made the switch to Bluestream at that time. So it was a unique experience in being able to understand their likewise CenturyLink experience and, you know, what was to come with Bluestream. And they've been with them for 4 years and had a lot of good things to say, and I think gave very honest feedback. We also spoke to a community called Shell Point Retirement Community, about 1,800 homes in Fort Myers, which their chief of staff described as the largest retirement community in the country, actually. And I thought that that was good feedback too, because knowing that there's some older residents and knowing that there may be change, you know, what was the hand-holding process like to get them comfortable with that change? So I think that that was some good feedback that we got as well. And these guys have been doing fiber optics for the last 20 years. And with that, I'll go to my last slide before we open it up to questions. And just going back to those initial goals that we had, wanted to show you some of the boxes that we checked. So for starters, we are going to have fiber optics going to each and every home, and it's not going to terminate on the side of the home like it is currently, where you're running older wiring into the house into the router. This fiber is going to go into the home and terminate inside the home. And right now, the current network that's in place, you could have a maximum speed of 1 gig. Well, with this new infrastructure, you'll have a maximum speed of 10 gigs. So it's 10 times the capability. The switchover redundancy with a diverse path. So having one network coming in from the Pine Island, the north route, and then also having one coming in from the south route of Veterans. So that automatic switchover redundancy. They're also promising an on-site backup generator to maintain service that would be here. I think that that's something that is going to be really important. Glen Eagle, when we talked to them directly after the hurricane, they had lost power, but because they had the backup generator, it offered the capability for residents. Now they needed their own power inside their home, but basically having the internet working before the power was on. So if you had a backup battery or you had a generator for your own home, you could be up and running before FP&L was up and running. On the customer service side, the service level agreements and the customer service guarantees. So Bluestream offered that inside their draft contract, and there's some negotiation, legal contract negotiation to take place to further improve those. On the upgraded equipment side, we were able to get the Wi-Fi 7 equipment I talked about, along with 2 Wi-Fi 7 pods. So essentially, you'll have these pods. If you're a 2-story home, you could have one downstairs, one upstairs, and it helps keep the same coverage all throughout the home. It's a mesh system, so it's a little bit different than an extender for those that may have an extender. When you have an extender, you're actually separating and not to get too much in the details, but you have two different networks when you have an extender. With the mesh system, it's complementing each other. So you're staying on the same original network, and you're having the devices help with that system. We'll have symmetrical speeds to start of 1 gig. So as of April 27, 2026, we will be at 1 gig of speed. The price that we negotiated was 27.50 with 0% escalators throughout the term. So that should make it easy for you, Mr. Treasurer, to not have to add up any annual escalations. We know what the fixed cost is going to be. And then for the future proofing the bandwidth needs, like I said, we're able to get them up to 2 gigs, so 100% higher than what we'll actually have had started with by the midpoint of the contract. And then also a technology review clause to be able to sit down in good faith, should technology be changing a lot throughout the duration of this contract. So it's been very comprehensive. I can't thank the committee enough for all the work that they've been doing. They have been, truly phenomenal. And with that, I'll open it up for questions. John.
So do any board members feel like they ask Joe questions? Yeah.
My concerns, you've hit them all. Price, customer service, fault tolerance, and consequences. I'd like to talk a little bit more about the customer service. What kind of response? What are they going to offer in terms of call in or support centers? And what are the consequences in the event of an extended outage or failure? What do you suggest that be in the contract?
Yeah, so some of that's still a little bit to be negotiated. I can share what's in the draft template.
What's typical? Yeah.
So what they're promising is that they're going to be answering the phone within, I believe it's 90 seconds, 60 seconds, I believe. It's all going to be US based call centers. If a technician needs to come out to the home, which now that you're having smart endpoints and you're having fiber going truly into the home, ideally they're going to be more proactive than reactive in being able to identify any potential congestion issues. But if a technician does need to come out to the home, what they have in the contract now is that they'll be out there the same day, within 4 hours, as long as it's before 2 p.m. Otherwise, they would be there the next day. So that's one of the metrics that's in there. They have metrics in there relating to reliability, about being up and running 99% of the time on an annual basis. That's something I want to improve upon. I like 99, but I like 99.5 better. So I think that those are key pieces to negotiate. There's also items in there if there were to be an outage about getting financial credits. So some of that SLA language, though, it's good to start. There's I think room to improve, and it looks like you had a follow up to that.
It's not one. Well, and the consequences, a current contract gives us like $2, or nothing. So, the maximum outage would be 2 days worth of outage. I hope the contracts you're getting have a little more sting in them than that. What's your experience in the consequences side?
Well, I think it's really important that we get this right. And I think that we want to define first of all, what an outage is. So for starters, they define outage as having all of the homes um, uh, being down as qualified as an outage.
Down, yeah.
I've seen movement with them that you could get it as low as 50% possibly. So that lowers the threshold overall. But the financial side, there is language about getting a full day's worth of credits. That's still kind of to be negotiated, and that's part of the legal contract negotiations. The financial remedies. There's some starter language there, but there is room to improve upon it.
Along with that, I understand they also will offer a bulk package in terms of streaming. So if one were to lose service, that's not a part of our bulk contract. So if one were to lose cable services, streaming services in their home, has the remedies been explored with them in terms of that?
So that would be somewhat separate because that would be more on a retail basis,
Right.
on a customer to customer basis. So anything related to cable necessarily wouldn't qualify under this particular bulk internet services agreement. There is the ability to be able to use their traditional cable platform. We learned in this process that about 14% of the community is still using the traditional Comcast
Right.
cable. So it would offer an opportunity for them to either continue with Comcast, move on with Bluestream. For those that are using, other platforms like DirecTV, that option will be made available to them. If they wanted to have a more traditional cable experience, they utilize the TiVo platform.
Yes, Scott.
First of all, thank you. Heck of a job. Also, heck of a job by the telecommunications committee. There's been a lot of time and effort put into this, so thank you for that. I just have a couple of quick comments. First of all, I've never been a supporter of long-term contracts. However, with that being said, with no escalators, I think that that's a win for us. So, especially if they're making the commitment of the infrastructure. Um, my concern is 9 years is a long time. The way Wi-Fi is going to be delivered could change tomorrow. So again, that's just technology changes quickly. Who knows how it's going to be delivered? The other question is I saw in the package, and it kind of goes along with what Beth Ann's saying, that there is TV packages that are a la carte that can be acquired through Bluestream, but we're just buying the actual signal to the house, correct?
The internet only, that's all we.
The Wi-Fi signal to the house.
Right.
For 2750 with a gig and then moving to 2 gigs, how can you argue? The other thing which I think needs to be given some consideration in the contract too is all of our utilities are presently underground in Sandoval. And if they are installing their infrastructure, they probably have to use a jack and bore type of system in order to go under driveways, etc.
Yes.
And we have electric, water, and all that good stuff underground that, in case, because there's been some history of this with companies that they mess up the underground utilities, such as the water lines, etc., that they have some type of liability for a period of time if they're, say, for example, they nick a water line and my pavers decide that they're going to sink into the center of the earth, um, that they're responsible for it. That would just be my only thing, that there would be some type of remedy for that over a period of time, not 30 days, but a definite period of time if we could. Other than that, I'm supportive of this deal.
Any other questions? I just would like to make a few comments. I think the Internet Ad Hoc Committee was a group of very diverse individuals. We had two lawyers that had to go through quite a little bit of a learning curve on the technology side. We had one gentleman that recently joined us that's more technology savvy. But it's really been an interesting exercise to go through because we learned a lot in terms of what's available in the marketplace, what we were capable of doing, and I think the team worked pretty well. And then, assuming that this gets accepted and voted positively by the board, the next step is Dave Hiller and I will start interviewing attorneys to bring on board to represent us for the specific negotiation. So in fact, we have an appointment for one on Wednesday if we get to go ahead with this motion.
Bill, I actually have a question that came to mind.
Shoot.
To Todd's point, it jumps to 2 gigabits after 4 years of capacity. Should we get to the point where AI and whatever the future beyond that becomes a larger bandwidth hog, would there be the opportunity for us to look at expanding our capabilities to the house, since they do go up to 10 gigs at a future renegotiation, for lack of a better term? If we as a community deem 2 gigs isn't meeting our needs based on the future of technology as a whole.
Yeah, so at this point, we are capped right now, at least in the bulk basis, on 2 gigs, which I think we could all agree is an extraordinary amount of speed, and probably, something on the flip side, something that maybe we may never need, throughout this 9 years. But like I said, there is the capability as well to go up to 10 gigs. So those would be done as of right now more on a retail basis option. for those that want to participate inside something like that. And then additionally, there is something related to a technology review clause where there's an opportunity to sit down in good faith to be able to talk about a potential speed increase. I also imagine, just like quantum fiber is, by about year 6, year 7, they're going to be wanting to come around and start renegotiating, the next agreement, should they be chosen. So there would be an opportunity at that point as well to use that as leverage to be able to potentially get, higher speeds at that point if needed. So there's a plethora of ways to be able to get higher speeds right now. Just speaking from my 2 cents, I think that we're certainly covered at this point. But to Todd's point and your point, technology does rapidly change. I'm a big proponent of AI, and you never know, until it comes. So I think that there's a lot of pathways to getting that right now as it stands.
So, and this, Andrew, to your point, there's two key components for a technology upgrade. One is just the raw speed, but also the equipment that's going to be placed in the house that is currently committed to be Wi-Fi 7. And it may make sense to leave it at 2 gig, but improve the Wi-Fi infrastructure as part of a technology upgrade. So there's different paths that we can follow based upon the way technology is growing.
Thank you.
Okay.
I make a motion that we move forward with your proposal.
Okay.
I would second that.
Okay. Ready to vote? All right. All in favor of the resolution to start contract negotiations with Blue Stream and to bring on an attorney to assist with contract negotiations, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
None opposed. Passed unanimously.
Joe, thank you again. Awesome, man. Great job.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate your comments last time in July when I was driving on my way home. I was like, wow, you said we're blessed to have you. I really appreciate it. So thank you.
We are.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
He dressed up for us too.
Okay. Thank you, Joe.
Bye.
You have a safe trip back.
Thank you.
He's got to drive Alligator Alley home to the.
Oh,
jeez.
oh, take care.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. We have one item under new business. It's an appeal to an ARC decision. Do we have Alex? And I apologize if I'm pronouncing your name incorrectly. Wyther here. Okay. Well.
Oh, that was Jim. Yeah, Jim's on the arc.
Okay.
It's not bad.
So just in the interest of fairness, we will table this until November. We'll ask.
Were they given notice to appear?
They requested to appear. If you look in the correspondence, they requested to be on the agenda.
Okay. Can I make a motion?
Why would we table it?
Do you want to review it?
I would make the motion that we hear it, but I'm obviously going to step back as I'm not acting as the board director.
I'll make a motion that we deny the request.
Do we have a second to that?
Second.
Any discussion?
Okay. Why?
Because it doesn't fall within the guidelines.
Good reason.
Did I satisfy your question?
You did. Good.
That was rather short.
Okay. With that, do we have any other discussion on this motion? I'll call the question. All in favor of denying this ARC appeal, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Okay, this ARC appeal has been denied.
I voted present.
I'm sorry.
No, as a
5-1.
as a
5-5.
0-1.
5-0. Right. Okay. All
All
right. That's the only item under new business. Committee reports. We don't need to have an ad hoc internet committee report this month. We just went through that. Communications committee, we were not able to meet due to Hurricane Milton, so we will pass on that. ARC.
ARC had roughly 17 to 18 applications for the total month. It was 12 and 7, I believe. It was kind of the split, or 12 and 6 for the 18 number. off of memory, we had probably about 6 denials. And in most cases, when the homeowners are getting the denials, they're coming back to us with the needed information to get the projects moving forward. So again, our goal is to assist our homeowners in seeing their projects through, and we are actively providing them the information as to why their denial was there and working with them to get it to the next point. We will be happy to note that one of our homeowners that did make an appeal here had finally decided on an approved color and is moving forward with that. So we're glad to resolve
That's
that
good news.
issue
Yeah.
with that particular homeowner. Um, that's it. Would you want me to jump into rules or?
Are you or Kathleen making the rules for? Do you have any questions on
I'm sorry, any questions?
How are we doing on roofs? Are we still getting a lot of roof
We
applications?
actually, John, this last time around, we actually did not, other than the one that had sought appeal of the color issue, we have not had.
So we're in good shape. We're
We're
catching up
kind
with
of
roofs.
to the
Good.
point where it's slowing down.
Good.
That's great.
Good.
Yeah, I would suspect that right now, it's just, it's the unfortunate owners that are into an extended litigation with their insurance companies are
Oh, yeah.
probably gonna be the laggards in the process.
I mean, we're gonna have,
Christine has that problem. Yeah.
Yeah.
we're gonna have a large.
Although her appeals, I'm sorry, no, although we did approve her appeal.
We are gonna have the larger issue over time as to those units that are not in litigation at all and are just choosing not to move forward with what are clearly needed roof repairs, so.
We'll have to look at that, yeah.
I mean, I know of a property that we had interest in at the time coming in, and roofing was one of those issues, and no action that I can see on that.
Okay.
So we do have issues that I think going forward that we'll deal with as a board and a community.
Okay. All right. Any other questions on ARC? Rules Committee?
Kathleen, me, yeah, all right. With that, Rules Committee met. We were unfortunately delayed a week because of Milton coming through. Normally we meet the second Tuesday of every month. We met the third Tuesday of that month. In that situation, we finished the second half review of the residence handbook. We do have some revisions to the language. Again, I just want to be clear, we're not recreating the wheel in the sense of creating a new resident handbook. This is purely looking at some of the language, and it tends to be dated language based on based on some of the changes that have occurred. Ideally, by the November meeting, there'll be those changes presented to the board as a complete document again, whole document, so that it can be reviewed and approved as a new revision to the existing handbook. With regards to that, we'll meet again on the second. We're meeting the second Tuesday of November, which should be my addition is correct, the 12th. Yep. Week after election day. So
Okay. Thought election day was the 5th.
that is a week later.
Okay. All right.
Plus 7 is 12.
Yeah.
Though we're in election season, so really, what does the day matter? But
No politics.
yes, sir.
Okay. So that's it, on rules.
That's it on rules. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Unless anybody had a question for us.
Any questions on rules? Okay, social committee?
Lucy, thanks for sending me that text. I was able to find it on my computer or get it going. So this is one heck of a
Yeah.
big month in social, probably the biggest you'll see. And so we got the haunted house right away, trick or treat coming on the 26th. Pumpkin patch for the toddlers. Also in the
Give me a
Pelican
job.
patio with crafts for the children on the 31st. Of course, Halloween. Wristbands are available every day at the office with or with Jessica. It's a garage sale coming up on the 2nd. Permits are due to Jessica by the 28th. So make sure your address is added to the map. Everyone for that wants to participate in the garage sale. There's a meet and greet of solos on the 7th at 7 p.m. on the 9th. On the 15th, there's shopping in the Pelican building. We have a dozen vendors selling candy and jewels and apparel. A lot of our residents in that sort of thing. So, including my wife. Yeah. On the 15th, welcome back cocktails with Dina. On the 17th, there's a board resin class. And how do you say her name? Charcuterie?
No, that's the
Oh, that's what it
Jamaican.
is. Okay, thank you. Thank you. All right.
You don't even know what that is.
Sure. Sure, it's not. It's photographs like for 8 to 12 years, on the 16th. Murder Mystery Night has been rescheduled because of the hurricane. The next big event the social committee working on is Winterfest, which is gonna be December 7th. This is one heck of a busy time,
Yeah.
and we could use another member or two on the committee if people would like to join. So thank you very much.
Can I just make a comment?
Sure.
Jessica did a great job
Oh,
in
didn't she-
regards to
didn't she tell me?
Hispanic Heritage Month
Oh, yeah.
and regards to the Halloween fest, the other, not Halloween fest, but the
Yeah.
Halloween gathering that she did the costume. She did a great job. It was really nice to
She
see
always
some
does.
new faces. And the other thing that was really nice to see was there was a mixture of different age ranges. And it was a great event. So just kudos to Jessica.
Any other questions or comments on social? All right, amenities, Jim, Ken.
Jeff, the amenities committee is, I think it's already submitted their budget request for chairs and anything new, Chuck, on engineering for place to put chairs.
Yeah, we received a quote, and, we presented it to,
Okay.
I think Scrooge.
So all of this, amenities have a number of things that they put into next year's budget request, which we'll see, all right? So there's not allowed, and of course, we've asked for 125 chairs to replace these that are failing, and then we'll replace beyond that as needed. I mentioned that last month as well. Other than that, we don't have anything to report on amenities except now our dog park subcommittee chairman is here. Would you like to give a report, Dave?
Thank you. Yes, we do have some information. So, number one, we did not meet between the last board meeting and this due to Milton, but I thought it was significant enough to bring up two important points. Number one tree was lost at Happy Paws, which has been at least removed and that's been addressed, but that's important to note that we're down a tree in that park. And Barkley has apparently potentially sustained some damage to the tiki hut. It's at least visual. It probably needs to be inspected or put on a list as we're going through the storm assessment. In addition, there is a debris field in the park that my guess is it came from someplace else and the wind brought it in because it appeared to be tar paper and lumber. Not sure exactly. That might be associated with the roof, but I wouldn't be aware of any tar paper being in the tiki hut construction. So
Which
it's
one
like
is that?
that's in Barkley.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so we just need that looked at. In general, I will comment that the feedback has been very favorable, the way the parks have been progressing. And so we're thankful for the work the board and Chuck and team have been doing to make sure we're improving the park situation. So I'll take questions if anything, if anybody has anything.
Does any board member have any questions? Okay. Thank you, Dave.
Just update Dave, we are waiting for quotes on all of the tikis that were damaged. So, and some of that material is actually part of the tiki.
Okay.
Not the tar paper, but everything else. And so they're keeping that in hopes that they can reuse it.
Good. Next is safety and security.
So the safety and security meeting met. Chuck was present at that. Also, Ed Coronado had invited two police officers to come to the meeting. They did come. So thank you, Chief Sizemore. They agreed to do an occasional drive-through the community, just to make a presence. There was a lot of emphasis on the police officers' behalf that when things are happening to call trespassing, this bicycle, whatever. When there are complaints to go ahead and call them, make sure that they're taking a report. They really emphasize the importance of that every time they're called out in regards to you need to make a police report. If they fail to take the report, the Safety and Security Committee needs to be notified of that so that they can then call Officer and Lamana will instruct somebody to come back and take the report. We also talked about the idea of having them come to a board meeting to explain to the community different aspects of what they can and what they can't do. So because we get so many complaints about that, it's really important to give accurate information out to the community. And it's also for the community to see and hear Officer Lamana to give a presentation. You can see what he looks like, and we thought that that would be really very helpful. Chuck, do you want to say anything about that? Because you were at the meeting.
Yes, a very fruitful meeting. After the meeting, we shared some video evidence with the police department.
Okay.
And within a couple of days, they got back to us and an update on their investigation. And they are actively kind of pursuing it. I think
Good.
mostly because the chief lives here, but we'll take anything we can get.
Right.
But matter of fact, something showed up on Cape Coral's PD's
Good.
Instagram tonight, which
Okay.
is associated with some of the issues that we're having here. So I think it was a positive meeting. I
Yeah.
think we should not lose any momentum and continue to have meetings with them. They are going to be here for Halloween
Yeah.
in force. So we look forward to that. We've paying for 10 and we get four
on a
on
bicycle.
bicycles through a grant. So about 14 officers will be here. I think it was a good first step.
And they were very amenable to continue to come to the safety and security meetings. They said, when you want us to come, we'll be more than happy to come. So that was very productive. The next steps that the Security and Safety Committee will be working on is to review their charter and to look at what objectives and goals they have plans for the future. Jay and I did meet with Dave in regards to financial requests that they have for that solar speeding panel. Dave, I guess, is going to consider it and get back to the safety and security meeting. And that was good. It was a very productive meeting. So that's it. Questions?
Any question for safety and security? Okay. Bethany, do you think it would make sense to do a short write-up to share with the community about the meeting you had with these officers?
Sure. If we had a newsletter, that would be a great place to
It's
do
not
that.
your newsletter, but like a little short article. And
Sure, I can talk to.
a single email
Yeah.
blast and then give it.
To go out with the GM report. Yeah, I think that's great. I'll talk to Jay about it.
And we can work on getting there.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Great.
Okay, thank you.
It also might actually be a good thing to, I don't know if this is feasible or practical. I'd be interested in Chuck's opinion, to publish maybe how many reports, how many times we're calling. And we did have a discussion at looking that Sandoval with, on the average of 3,000 residents, is like a city of its own. And we thought that it might be helpful to look at what kind of calls we're getting, how many calls, because that could help in making us look as an attractive community. It could help with sales to show that much of that is not happening in Sandoval. So we talked about, the positive and the negatives about that. That could also be looked at how maybe it would be frowned upon. So it was just a conversation that was happening. So, Chuck, did you?
Yeah, and in an earlier meeting with the chief, probably about a year ago, he made reference to the fact that Sandoval itself, he compared it to the population of, I'm going to make up, obviously not Estero, but some neighborhood or some small little town, and looked at the crime ratio that happens in that particular location compared to here, and what type of crime. Is it
Right.
domestic or petty theft, those kind of things, trespassing. And it would be good to understand, or at least let the residents know what kind of benchmark we're at, right? So
All right, excellent. Any other questions or comments for safety and security? Okay, next committee up is Lakes.
This come down a little? How's that? Okay. So I wasn't around in September, so I didn't give a report then. So I did want to add that in August, two members of the committee went to Florida Lake Management Society Citizen Science Workshop. So, and that was very interesting. And we listened to lectures by 6 different vendors on a variety of topics having to do with lakes, from littorals to algae. Um, there was none on invasive fish, but it was very interesting. Um, and at that event, they did show a video of our resident Stu catching the Plecostomus, and they were all very impressed with that. So he's like the cutting edge of getting rid of these invasive fish. So on to this month's report. The next Lakes Committee report is November 12th here at the Pelican Building. Seabreeze has received their permits to do the shoreline repair on Lake 16, which is the lake over by the tennis courts. So we're waiting to get on their schedule. I emailed them this week. They got back to me and said that they're working on scheduling. So I don't know. I don't have a date from them. I imagine they're behind from all the storms, just like everybody else. We have submitted our lakes request for budget for next year. And the big items there is the management company that monitors and monitors the lakes monthly for algae and invasive littorals and other problems that are. So that's the maintenance plan. We also want to plant more littorals next year. That's one of the best things you can do to prevent algae and prevent shoreline repair. We want to put on fishing events again next year, and for the reserve spend, we want to repair 2 lakes next year. Not complete lakes, but a shoreline and another lake. We're also going to get competitive quotes this year for the maintenance company. We have in the current company, their contract has just been rolling over for several years, and we want to get competitive quotes this year and see if there's other options. Other than that, I have set up the schedule for Lakes Committee's events, meetings next year, and I'll get those sent over to be posted online. Any questions?
Next committee report is finance.
Finance, we are currently putting together the 2025 budget. I believe we're almost done with the operating piece of it. Then we have to put together the reserve spend for next year, and I have all the numbers from all the committees. And we did get the reserve study back, so I have to sit down and look at that and see what we can do to smooth out some of the hits that they have in that reserve study. So, but I haven't looked at it deep enough to be able to say one way or another on what effect it's going to have on the community. But I hope to get to that next week. And that's the finance report.
So, Dave, we have a town hall scheduled for review of the budget for which date and time?
Isn't it the 4th or the 5th?
November 4th
4th?
at 6 p.m. Town hall meeting to review the budget proposal.
Dave, what on the reserve study, was there a carve out for Hayden Lane?
I believe when I looked at it, Hayden Lane does have a separate
Okay, all right, okay.
entry.
Are you seeing anything that was like striking off on the timetable? cost aspects may be different, but
And the biggest thing that jumped out at me is the increase in costs for repairs, you know, everything has gone up in the last few years and that's affected redoing the streets. Um, I haven't looked at it close enough to say, well, it's gonna go up this much or it's, 5% increase. I just kind of looked at it. I looked at the high level, I looked at the numbers.
from
And
previous one 2 years ago to
yes,
today.
and I was a little surprised at how much money they think we need to put into the contribution portion each year to keep up.
Wow.
Are you anticipating making any changes in the reserve contribution due to home sales?
I think we have to look at both home sales and residents because the we got to start collecting more money now. It's just going to have an impact farther down, and I don't feel comfortable saying, all right, well, we'll go one more year without raising anything. We have to look at that, present it to the board, and the board's going to have to make the decision on how they want to handle it. Any other questions?
All right, thank you. Landscaping.
Landscaping. Let's see. Mulch is going down. They're going to start cutting trees soon. Oops. And we're going to meet with Juniper to have a discussion of the level of service we're getting.
Okay.
What about another drone flight to see how our place looks?
I don't, I scheduled that yet. We just did that this week, so they're gonna get that on.
That way we can have a clear picture how it looks from the
Good
air, whole neighborhoods, right?
What,
Yeah.
what I'm
Comparison.
trying to do is they have the capability of showing multiple drones on one screen,
Okay.
and I haven't figured out how to do that, so I have to get with them to have them show me how to do it, because I'm using their software.
Oh.
All right. Any other questions for landscaping? Okay, covenants, Ted?
This will be quick. There was no meeting in October. All violations were cleared prior to the meeting.
Oh, nice. Good.
What else can I do, huh?
Next meeting is scheduled for when?
November,
And there will be none at that one.
third week in November.
Third
so
Thursday, which would be
I'll tell them to bring their supper the night of the December one with all these other
Yeah.
will be coming up. So
actually probably won't be the third. He's probably moved it up a bit, hasn't he?
I,
Well, we need to look at, because it might be the board meeting on the 21st. So, okay,
no problem. We're flexible.
okay.
You know, ever since
Well, there's no violations going to y'all. There's settlement agreements, so
That's true.
should be good.
We're good.
There you go.
With that change in the statute where they can cure, like right up to the meeting,
Yeah.
that has really kind of changed how things, because in the past, they get fined and that's it. They're going from here to the hearing. And they now have more time to actually cure, and they're taking advantage of it.
I'd rather have it cured.
Yeah, it's better.
deal with that committee. Trust me,
Yeah.
they're tough.
Risk management.
Good.
I have a comment from Chairman Bill Dunker. During October, members of the Risk Committee reviewed and provided HOA management comments on the proposed internet provider contract and Precedent's proposed contract for HOA management. We will review Precedent's response when provided. Additionally, after reviewing several other qualified insurance brokers, the committee members provided a unanimous recommendation that Ian Keith with Keith Insurance in Fort Myers be retained as Sandoval's insurance broker because of his excellent and continuing service and advice to the HOA.
Sounds reasonable.
Any questions for risk management? Okay, strategic planning.
Strategic planning also did not meet this month due to Milton. So there's no report. However, on follow-up on the Hayden Lane, we're at a stalemate until the election takes place. And once we find out who the council that's seated, then we can plan on for our next steps. So
Yes, and one of the things that I'm trying to nail down is a meeting with a land use specialist
Okay.
attorney to have a conversation with that attorney so we understand what we have to be prepared for before we make an appeal to the city council. Make sure we have all our facts straight, especially down to the origination of the community and everything.
I actually think that when we do the appeal to the city council, I don't know if something can go out to the community in regards to that. It probably would be really helpful
Right.
to have residents in the audience when
Right.
doing so.
It'll probably be either December or January time
Okay.
for that,
Right.
that on their agenda.
Okay.
Okay.
And we do have our first pothole on Hayden Lane.
Oh no.
That maintenance will address.
Great.
And I saw the trees out there, where Juniper is stacking all the stuff on the lawn of Hayden Lane.
Yeah, that's the open thing that.
Yeah. Okay.
Can I ask a question about, Milton quote unquote cleanup? I know that, Waste Pro resumed recycling today, but I did happen to notice that our vegetation remains at the side of the curb. Is that supposed to still be picked up within the next couple days? As they sometimes trickle into Friday?
They should. It
Okay.
said, the notice said that the 21st they would resume normal
Okay.
activities. And we do have, we filled this out a while ago. We do have the right of entry in case it's bigger than just Waste Pro. So
Sure.
our paperwork's in place, so there's no reason for them not to pick it up.
Well, I love having royal palms, even at our street level. Those produce some big junk during a hurricane. So
Okay. All right. All right, that's it for committee reports. We have two board meetings coming up. On October 28th, we have a board meeting scheduled where we will review the management company contract and consider its approval. And we have our regular November meeting scheduled for Thursday, November 21st. The key item for that is if we will probably be voting on the 2025 budget at that meeting. So
Now that I'll be on a cruise at that point, so I will not be
no
at the
sense in picture
November.
of me having a drink.
I will not be there, so.
We'll still have a quorum if we don't have things sorted out by then. Okay, fair enough. All right. Do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting? Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
This meeting is adjourned. If any resident would like to make a comment, they're welcome to do so, limited 3 minutes before we wrap up here. Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody.